Okay, let's check this out. How big is your dick? It's about 6 and some change, like a quarter shy of the full dollar, if you know what I mean. Hey guys. So during the promo tour of my first video talking about gay bathhouses and sex venues, I went over to Reddit to do an AMA, and I wanted to take apart my favorite questions and just go through them a little more and maybe like expand on them a little bit. I did leave a link for that down in the description just in case you were curious and you wanted to take a peek. But like always, if I didn't answer anything here or there or in my first video, which I'll leave a link to somewhere around here, go ahead and leave it down in a comment and I'll try to get to you. All right, let's get started. How many times did you have to call an ambulance for a guest? So this was actually the most upvoted question, so I'm gonna take a little more time to be a little clearer on it. We're gonna call the ambulance for any reason at all, sometimes when it's probably completely unnecessary. So sometimes you're gonna have a guest that maybe took a little nap in the sauna and they're gonna come out a little heat stroked, or you're gonna have a guy that probably came in drunk. We can't assess a medical emergency, but a professional can. Just to be on the safe side, we will call an ambulance. So I actually don't have a tally for that, to be honest. Probably maybe about once or twice a month. And out of those times, how many times was it actual like an emergency? I don't know, you know, like drugs. That's the question, drugs. So I definitely want to be upfront about that on this channel. I don't want to shy away from the more difficult topics about the culture. I'm actually a little bit unclear of myself of like whether or not these kinds of venues attract that kind of culture. I've definitely been to like bars and concerts where I've seen guys snort lines in the bathroom. I feel like any adult space at all is going to attract drug culture, but you know, there definitely is a conversation surrounding bathhouses. However, every bathhouse that I've ever been to has a zero tolerance policy for drugs, particularly at mine. Uncontestable and permanent. If we caught you with any kind of drug, you were 86. If we even perceived that you may have been on drugs, that would have been enough to flag your account. It was a suspension. What's the most revolting thing you've ever seen while on the job? So that definitely has to be the time that I saw this guy. I guess he must have had a little too much to drink, but he passed out like in one of our longest halls. But this dude sat up, shot clear across the hall. I'm talking like exorcist style vomiting here. I was so impressed. I was disgusted and I was really impressed. Like I was like, wow, I'm gonna have to clean all that up. Have you ever hooked up with a person there? Yes, of course I did. And if you watched my last video, you know that this is actually something us employees can get in a lot of trouble for. At my place particularly, we could get fired if we got caught on the job. So I wouldn't readily admit this if I were still employed, but like I'm already fired. Like what are they gonna do, fire me more? And I've been to my fair share of bathhouses and like fooled around with the employees there. So like, yeah, we did it. Yeah, we did it. I did it all the time. And like, I'm sure everyone else does it. Okay, so this is a multi-part question and I'm gonna go through all of them. Is there any truth to the hidden camera rumors? No. This is a question that got asked repeatedly and it's just like, no, definitely no. Like I am gonna say though, we did have cameras in like the public places like the lobby or the lounge or the locker rooms, and we would definitely crowd around the monitors when there was somebody cute that walked in, but you know, a manager would always come by like break it up. So yeah, and that aspect of it, yeah, of course we would watch the monitors, but in terms of having like hidden cameras inside of like private rooms or like in the bathrooms, like no. I cleaned those walls up and down, side to side for like 5 years. I would have known. Honestly, I genuinely thought that they were watching us more than they were watching our guests. Like it made more sense. How clean is the water in the hot tub? This is actually something that we can get in a lot of trouble for. If the water pH levels are not up to code, we can get shut down. So it's incredibly important for us to be on that. Like I wasn't even allowed to clean it. I was never allowed to touch the hot tub or the pool. Our licensed maintenance guy had to do that. How safe actually is it? To be honest with you, I don't know. If you watched the last video, like prep really threw a wrench in any of the statistics that we had up to this point because guys are having more and more unprotected sex. The statistics are a little bit wacky right now because of that reason, so I kind of don't know if these places are safer than say hooking up anywhere else like Grindr or whatever. I will say for sure though, the city can intervene if we have some kind of outbreak. So for example, I can't remember what it was, but in the city of West Hollywood recently there was an outbreak of something. And the city had to get involved in the bar scene because that's where this was spreading. So, they set out some testing vans and they mobilized more people to go speak to the community about what was going around. But something like that happening at my club or any of the clubs in my city, not that I'm aware of. What's the worst thing that you saw? Seeing kids fall to drugs, and I keep saying this, but when I say kids, I mean 18, 19, 20, those are still children to me. Seeing these guys fall so early in their life, like, it's really heartbreaking. What advice would you give someone who's interested in going to one but is nervous about it? Go for you. Okay, so in the last video I talked about how I didn't think that these places were for me. I didn't feel comfortable in these kinds of spaces. I didn't have too high of a self-esteem and I thought that I wouldn't pull anything. I don't know. But if I could go back and I could tell myself something, it would just be like, you know what? Go just to have fun. Go to the pool on a hot day, go sunbathe, go spend a cold night in the warm sauna. Definitely, don't feel pressured to do anything with anyone. Would you recommend going with a friend to help you feel more comfortable? I'm definitely the kind of person that feels really uncomfortable taking someone with me to these kinds of spaces. Like, I don't know that I can be in a room and then like right next door my friend is getting his walls rearranged. Like, but like, seriously, if you have that kind of relationship with somebody, I'm super envious. And of course, definitely go with somebody. But don't treat that person as a security blanket. You're an adult and you're capable of going on your own if you need to. Which celebrities have you seen there? So I knew I was going to get asked this question and I had a whole prepared speech and I'm going to speak a little bit off the cuff. What I wrote in the replies about valuing your privacy, all of that is still true, 1000%. If a celebrity decided to come into my bathhouse, I wouldn't in a million years think about going to YouTube and going like, oh my God, guess who is here? That's just really rude. So definitely, yes, we value your privacy, but let me tell you the legal reason why I can't. So let's say, for example, Leonardo da Vinci rose from his French grave and decided to visit my bathhouse. He is in France, right? If I then go and, tell YouTube, hey, the master was at my bathhouse last night, he can sue me and the burden of proving that he was there would be on me. Then we get into like this legal scuffle about, the right to privacy, all that other stuff. It's a private club, blah, 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 blah. And of course, like, I don't want that. But the first part is still true. Definitely, I would never betray that trust, but also I can't legally. And of course, that wasn't enough for the peanut gallery and they wanted to know, non-specifically, can you tell us who was there without giving us any names? So, I mean, okay, I guess. Like, I saw a couple musicians, like some guys that I actually looked up to when I was younger, some guys that I looked up to now, especially now knowing that they go to these kinds of spaces. And then, like I would see like small YouTubers and I would also see like contestants from like RuPaul's Drag Race. And they were all like out members of the community. This wasn't anything shocking. This wouldn't like make any headlines anywhere or anything. Like, nobody would really care in the end. I have psoriasis. Have you ever seen any patrons with severe skin disorders? Yes, I actually did. And not just skin disorders, but like even serious disabilities. And I really don't know what it's like to have these conditions or disabilities, but I would imagine it'd be kind of difficult going on Grindr and telling people, hey, you know what, I have X or Y thing. But the cool thing about going to a bath is that it's plainly visible. What you see is what you get. So it eliminates the need to tell a guy that you have a condition or something. And for the most part, guys are cool about it. Do you think bathhouse culture will be the same after COVID? I don't know. But definitely local health policy that's being set by the government is really affecting these spaces. I recently called up a bunch of baths and like visited a bunch of websites just to find out who's open right now. But we lost 3 bathhouses already. And if you've ever been to the Bay Area and visited the Water Garden in San Jose, like it's closed, that was one of the nicest, cleanest bathhouses I've ever been to, and it's gone. So this is definitely affecting the culture and this is definitely going to put a strain on bathhouses. And Grindr was already like the death knell ringing at our doors. So I'm just really curious about how this is all going to look in like a month, let alone a year. What is a general age breakdown and demographic of customers? This is another thing that actually, not only did it get asked a lot in the AMA, but it actually gets asked a lot of us like over the phone. Guys call us all the time asking, what the demographic is like at any given moment in time. My advice to you is if you're looking for a specific crowd, try to see if there's an event catered for that particular demographic. So if you're into bears, there might be a bear night. If you're into jocks, there might be a jock night, that kind of thing. I do want to say that younger guys definitely came in on the weekends. So after bar time, they would come, flood the bathhouses. And yeah, you would see see a younger crowd. And you know, you had the older guys who were probably retired or just had some extra time on their hands, and they would definitely come in like in the morning hours of like the weekdays. Do you get many trans people? Would trans men even be allowed, since these places are men only? So our club was actually pretty cool about this policy. So our policy was that regardless of what gender the customer presented as or what stage of the transition that they were in, if their ID said male, they were allowed in. That's definitely not the case for a lot of places that I've been to though. But the way that I would handle it specifically is like, regardless of what their ID said, if a trans person wanted to come in during my shift, they were allowed in no matter what. What's the freakiest sexual thing you've ever seen? Okay, so this guy, I guess he was like really into penis pumps and he like overused them or something. You don't know what those are? No, they don't work. So this guy had this like thing between his legs, this slow roasted country fair suckling pig just like flopping around. It was just like, oh my God. So what's your plan now? Applying to other bathhouses that are still open? Are you trying to open one of your own? Thank you for asking that, by the way. So my boss definitely said that there is a space open for me, you know, if they should open up between you and me and, you know, the very public YouTube. I really doubt that's gonna happen. But, you know, I'm okay with that. I got some other, you know, projects on the pipeline, and thankfully, you know, I have a roof over my head and I'm okay. And, you know, like, as for opening up a bathhouse, like, we all have those quiet moments, like during our breaks when we're like, I can run this place a lot better than management. I really don't think that kind of stuff applies to like running a bathhouse. Just having to deal with the city alone, that would make me go gray overnight. So it's like something that I've daydreamed about, but I don't think that I'm actually, you know, like serious about it. I know this sounds dumb, but what is a bathhouse and why is it exclusive to gays? Not a dumb question. I definitely wanted to go in a little bit about the history of bathhouses in my last video, but it was already 20 minutes long. And that's definitely another video that I have planned for the pipeline, you know, as soon as I get done reading this. But you know, the short of it is that basically these were cultural spas. Those still exist today, by the way. Like, you can go to like a legitimate Korean spa. Please don't hook up in those. And you know, those spaces were always, you know, separated by gender. And eventually gay men, you know, adapted those and they became the sex venues that we know today. Oh, why does every bathhouse have Google Maps reviews saying the employees were rude? You can tell this guy goes to bathhouses. This is actually something that is 1000% true, and I think I've seen it in every single review of every bathhouse I've ever been to. And I actually have a couple theories about it. Like, I don't think guys readily go online and be like, hey, you know what, I had a wonderful experience, you know, at this bathhouse or whatever. Naturally, the guys that are gonna have the most to say are ones that probably didn't like our policies or like we kicked out for some reason. And oddly enough, like, the reviews for my bathhouse actually went up significantly since its closure because of the pandemic. Like, a lot of them are like, oh my God, we miss you, and you know. So I don't know, that's one of those things that I'm curious about myself, actually. Maybe we are rude. Were you ever allowed to work naked or in a jockstrap? Yeah, actually. So this story. So that day, you know, I was making my rounds and I was walking by the pool and like I managed to trip on something and like I fell in soaking wet, you know, and I grabbed my clothes, I put it in the dryer, and the manager, you know, managed to pull clothes out of like the lost and found, which I wasn't about to wear. And I was like, hey, can I work in a towel? And he was like, no, you can't. But we were already short a person, and he was just like eventually like, okay, fine, get out there, it's fine. So, you know, I go out there in my little towel and, you know, I managed to pull something like $350 in tips that day. Like, it was just wild. Anyway, thanks for watching. This is just a quick video to get out there before I get to the stuff I really want to talk about. I want to pull out a video talking about the history of gay bathhouses, and there is so much to cover and it's taking a lot longer than I thought it would. So hit the subscribe button if you want to be notified when that video shoots through. Actually, you know what's actually really curious is that a lot of guys message me privately asking me what bathhouse I work at. And I mean, you have to know if you're asking me privately that I don't want to say publicly. And you know, the reason for that is like, you know, those disclaimers that sometimes appear at the beginning of videos. I definitely want to be able to talk to you guys openly about what happens in these kind of spaces. And I really don't want to worry about, you know, pissing off any of my former employees or maybe putting any of my guests or coworkers on blast specifically. I want to be really totally open with you guys. And in order to be able to maintain that, I can't tell you publicly where it was that I worked. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. See you next time.